when we get up every single morning and we're fired up and we're so excited and we know exactly what we want to get done and we have goals and we have ambition and we have that drive, when we lead that team, whether it's the communication or a Slack channel, or it's the way that we're celebrating the wins that different team members are having, or we're just celebrating the goals that we're achieving as an entity, I think a lot of that, like when led with excitement and led with charm and led with cheer, people really get behind that and they get completely like involved in it. And we've seen over the years that that is how we've built our culture, is really leading it with excitement and leading it with just true ambition and making sure that that spark never goes out.
Welcome to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, your dedicated source for mastering B2B social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Galton, and in each episode, we dive deep into the complex world of B2B marketing, from effective content creation to strategic social selling, sharing insights and strategies you can use right away. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing professionals like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling organizations like yours. Let me ask you, are you struggling to build and lead a marketing team that truly understands today's digital landscape? Perhaps you've experienced the frustration of trying to bridge the gap between traditional marketing approaches and the lightning fast pace of social media trends. And maybe you've wondered why your experienced hires seem to be missing that certain something when it comes to connecting with modern audiences. Well, you're not alone. Many marketing leaders find themselves caught between the need for proven business acumen and the desire for fresh, innovative thinking that seems to come so naturally to younger talent. But what if there was a way to build a team that combines both? That's exactly what our guest today has mastered. I'm excited to welcome Christian Brown, co-founder and chief marketing officer of Glewee, an all-in-one influencer marketing platform that's trusted by over 5,000 brands and 12,500 plus influencers. As a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, Christian has pioneered a unique approach to team building, cultivating a Gen Z dream team that's helped scale Glewee from a startup concept to a major player in the creator economy. His innovative leadership style and ability to identify and nurture young talent has not only transformed his company, but is reshaping how we might think about marketing team development. Hey, Christian, welcome to the show.
Mike, thank you very, very much. That was fantastic.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us, particularly from sunny Tampa, Florida. Thanks so much. So, share with us what motivated you to initially build a predominantly Gen Z team and what were some of the initial challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so when we first started Glewee, the idea was to create the end-to-end influencer marketplace. With that, we knew we needed an iOS app, we needed a web platform, and even furthermore, when you're building a marketplace, you need two sides of the market to fill that. So influencers on one side, brands on one side. So we understood the framework, we understood everything we wanted to do. We worked with a small group of friends to create, which was our MVP that we brought into market, which was our beta, which then translated into our first release. And at that time, that's where we started to scale up the team. And when we first thought about scale and team building, we thought about the people around us. So having come from the social media space, we always joke that like we grew up, we're the first generation to like truly grow up in social media. We thought, well, who knows it better than us? And so when we started to think about how are we going to grow our marketing team? How are we going to grow our sales team, our customer success team? We really looked around us and said, well, why don't we just bring our friends in? And at the time, we were finishing up in like the university experience and we were fresh out of that. And when I mean fresh, I mean like 2 days out of it. And we're like, well, we all worked great in group projects at school. We all have friends that have done other startup experiences. And we really built the team from the ground up with a group of friends that were all just like us, all Gen Z, we're all the same age. And we really started from scratch from there.
Awesome. So you're fresh out of uni, you're talking to your friends. Other than being your friend, how would you identify that someone has the potential to be an actual, great employee? I mean, obviously they're just out of school, they don't have much, if any, real work experience to show for it.
It was really just about work ethic, right? For us, it was just, we are going to be working around the clock to get this thing to market. And we did exactly that. Like, I mean, 15, 20 hours a day. And it was really just like, hey, here's our idea. Here's what we're building. Do you want to be a part of it? And it was never like an in or an out thing. It was always like you're completely on the ship and you're ready to either like sail it all the way across the sea or sink with it, or you're not. And I think that it was kind of, it came with the charisma and it came with the spark that we were really leading with. And everyone's like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of something big. And everyone believed in it. And I think when we look back at like, what traits and qualities we were most looking for, I think it really boiled down to like social media. Right. And so having all spent so many years before this, from like when we were 16 years old onwards, creating different companies and scaling them, whether it's e-com or creator economy oriented, we all spoke the same language. And I think that that alone, that level of foundation of trust, of knowledge, of nomenclature, everything that we are all really about, it all aligns so well that when we really look to like say, hey, we're going to grow this team, it doesn't matter what internship you had or like, what school you went to. It really matters with like what degree of social media knowledge you have and how fast are you at bringing that to the table and working with it.
I love that combination of a startup mentality, right? With that generational and just kind of zeitgeist alignment that you've got going with everyone involved there. Walk us through that team structure and how you've organized roles to kind of maximize some Gen Z strengths.
So I must say that we were a startup. We have always been a startup and we will probably forever always act as if we are a startup. And so I think, everyone in the world that hears the word startup hears this next sentence, which is you wear a lot of hats. I think that that is definitely that it's a baseline necessity. Someone that wants to be a little bit more of like in a cookie cutter role, that there's a structure and hierarchy, and every day you log on and you do exactly this, this, this. That might not be someone that's best fit for us, and we've identified that through trial and error. And we know that we need someone that's much quicker, much faster, more nimble, ready to get their hands dirty and get in the weeds on stuff, and someone that is very versatile, not only in the social platforms, but also in our tech stack. That's someone that just they can really sink their teeth in and they love it. And then when you merge that with the social media elements, we have this Venn diagram in our minds where it's like we are looking for the exact middle of the Venn diagram of wanting to work at a tech startup and wanting to be a social media savant. And right in the middle is where we sit. And when we can continue to grow a team directly in the middle of that Venn diagram, that's where we see the greatest success in team building, input, output, scale, execution, etc.
That's fascinating that Venn diagram that you kind of painted that picture because I imagine that somebody who fits in there also has some unique challenges
Mhm.
to work with that individual who has to be thinking also very I don't want to say self-promotional, but right, they need to be thinking about their brand presence, their personal brand quite a bit more than the average employee. What have
Mhm.
you found in terms of like leadership approaches that have worked best when working with these kinds of individuals and younger team members?
I think it's leading from the front and it's lead by example. I think that that's something that we've learned over the duration of the entirety of what we've built is that when we get up every single morning and we're fired up and we're so excited and we know exactly what we want to get done and we have goals and we have ambition and we have that drive, when we lead that team, whether it's the communication or a Slack channel, or it's the way that we're celebrating the wins that different team members are having, or we're just celebrating the goals that we're achieving as an entity, I think a lot of that, like when led with excitement and led with charm and led with cheer, people really get behind that and they get completely like involved in it. And we've seen over the years that that is how we've built our culture is really leading it with excitement and leading it with just true ambition and making sure that that spark never goes out because I think that it's very contagious, in both ways. Like if we were to be having, we're really, let's say that we're not happy about something, we would never show that, right? Because we need to be excited. We need to continue building. We need to continue growing. We need to continue taking this to the next frontier. And I think that we've seen our culture grow around that, and people really, really get excited about that. And I mean, it's been one of the greatest things that I can, sit back and report on is having built company culture and having built a team that wants to build what we're building.
That is so cool. I think now would be a really good opportunity for you to just expound a little bit on what it is exactly that you have grown. Talk to me more about what Glewee is today.
Okay, so Glewey is, like I mentioned, the end-to-end influencer marketing platform. So we have an iOS app for influencers and creators. So we'll start there. So influencers and creators, whether they have a strong following online or whether they're a UGC creator, they download and apply to our platform. So we're business partners with Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. So when an influencer is vetted and admitted into our platform, they actually connect their accounts. And then in real time, we can see their follower insights. We know a lot about their audience. We know their engagement rate. They build out their portfolio. They can even set their own rates. And then they exist in our iOS app. And then on the brand side, brands can come into our platform and use Glewee on any of our three tiers. And it's our objective to make it the fastest, easiest, and most affordable platform in the market. And how that works is brands can come in and they can do what's called launch a campaign. So we've taken the idea of creating an influencer marketing campaign, which typically is difficult. People would sit back and say, how do I find influencers? How do I communicate with them? How do I contract them? How do I know that their posts are going to go live? How do I track all that data? We shrunk that all down into a four-step process where a brand very easily can identify what their brand identity is, what their goals are for social media. They can say what social they want influencers to promote their product on. We even have a new Shopify partnership with an integration. So if a brand is built on Shopify, they can one tap connect their entire catalog and then start promoting those products. Um, and then once that campaign gets launched, every single influencer that qualifies based on follower account, location, age, gender gets a notification right to their phone. And it says, hey, this new brand has just launched a campaign. And when I say it, Mike, I actually mean it. Influencers will apply to campaigns within 15 seconds.
Hmm,
So these brands will
that
come into our platform and they'll launch a campaign. And like I said, it just takes a few minutes, four-step process. And then we tell them sometimes if we're doing an onboarding, hey, refresh. And within seconds, we have qualified influencers that are applying, raising their hand, pitching themselves, saying, I would love to be a part of this campaign. And then everything from the communication with the influencers, the contracting, the licensing rights, all the way down to the data that's not only being displayed on social media, but also sales and ROI data. All that lives within our platform on our dashboards. And we're really allowing that SMB, that new brand, whether you're a startup or you're a mid-sized company, even up to our enterprise clients, we're allowing them to have an engine and a tool to do influencer marketing like they've never seen before.
that is awesome. I've literally spoken around the world about how to set up influencer marketing campaigns and programs, and it's
Yep.
hard. It's a lot of work, and you said it yourself. The number one challenge and question I get is, well, how do I find really good influencers? And more often than not, it's a time consuming process of building
Hmm.
relationships one at a time, and sometimes that's great, particularly if you're trying to build a cadre of ambassadors for a B2B program. But if you just want to get a campaign out there and you want some people
Yeah.
buzzing about your latest launch or whatever the case might be, this sounds fantastic. So your team has
Yeah.
obviously done a really great job of building this. And going back to your team for a moment, it sounds like you also have a lot of individual contributors and creators. How do you balance giving them the level of creative freedom and autonomy, I think, that a lot of folks in our generation and younger are expecting and demanding, while also ensuring that you're meeting business objectives?
I think it comes from the top down and it comes from the goals that we're setting, how we're communicating them, and how we're tracking them. Because for us, we have goals across an array of different items, industries, even, right? We know our marketing goals, we know our sales goals, we know our development goals, we know our software development life cycle goals. We know a lot of this stuff. And so for all of us to come together as a team and say, this year, we are going to do this. In order to do this, we have our OKRs, which are then broken up by our KPIs, our KRs, et cetera. But we really identify and we state what our goals are. And then each individual contributor, which is a team member of ours, has their own silo that they're responsible for. And from there, it really is just you are responsible for this in this area of the business. When a user gets to this part of the business, then it comes over to a different team and a different team and a different team. And how we all create these like funnels and sequences to ensure that our clients, our customers, and our users are flowing through every part of the business. That level of teamwork all just comes with communication and synergy. And I think that it comes from the layer of setting good goals, communicating them, reiterating them, and then tracking them accordingly.
Love it. That's exactly what we've done. We've talked about on this show. We use the EOS system now at Agora Pulse. We previously used OKR, so I'm very familiar with that, and it works really, really well. Having that structure in place so that everybody knows and you have that repetitive communication so that they don't forget what the responsibilities are. Folks, we're talking with Christian Brown about how you and your team can approach and potentially connect better with target demographics. And I've got a few more questions you aren't going to want to miss. But first, in order to even know whether your messages are resonating or not, you need to have a solid reporting system in place. And for that, you need Agorapulse.
Actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agora Pulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agora Pulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agora Pulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So, Christian, what would you say has been your most successful strategy when it comes to, mentoring, developing, managing young talent like what we've been talking about so far?
So I think that when thinking on young talent, um, wow, I have like so many fun stories I can bring up right now. We've had I think the idea of fostering an environment for creativity, for hard work, for dedication, and for drive has been the number one most successful that we've done. And when I say this, I think back to a few of our team members over time, specifically some of our interns who came on, joined up after their internship as full time, and they were able to go to what we jokingly call Glewee University. And it's like when someone has been with us through their college years, and we've been able to give a lot of people their first job out of school. And we've been able to teach them, hey, look, this is your department, this is your silo, these are your goals. You need to do what you can to reach them. And then allowing for that creative freedom to really flow. And going back to the Gen Z element, all of us, our minds are all over the place, right? We can go on social media and spend 3 minutes on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter in 3 minutes and get enough content to talk about for a month, right? We can scroll on LinkedIn and find enough stats to report back on, to build blogs on, to build social posts on, to do all that because we just can consume content way faster. And I think that with that in mind, like the way that we work, it's very much like, boom, I want to do this right now. I want to come up with this idea. I want to create it. I want to execute on it. I want to get it into market. I want to look at the data and I want to test it. And I think that allowing for that creative freedom to flow and then the structures to be in place to allow someone to bring that idea to life. And then also empowering them with the ability to put an idea into market and actually see the impact it has. I think that's something that you get at a startup and you get when working with a smaller team that you wouldn't get at a large organization just because of the way that the structure is all in place. And I think back to a team member we had for many years. He has just moved on to a new role and he is managing the socials of a very, very large celebrity now. And when he told us about that news, obviously you think like a team member that's been such an integral part of growing your company, like at first you might be a little sad or upset, however you might internally feel about that. We collectively were so, so, so proud of
Mm,
the person, the employee, the worker, and the creative that he had become. Like I'm getting sentimental thinking about it.
yeah.
And to look back and say that he was once our intern, he grew and became such an incredible individual who is so hardworking, so driven, so dedicated to his craft. And he's now in a position where he's doing a job that thousands of people, right, want to do. And it's just so cool to see. I think having seen this individual go through that Glewee University and that experience that we've built from there, and seeing who he has become at the end of that, I will cherish moments like that for the rest of my life.
Really awesome. Our CEO here at Agorapulse has always had a very similar mindset. He's always said, Agorapulse is just going to be one stop along your journey, and we're always happy to see where else you go and hope that you continue to grow and go on to do bigger and better things. And I agree with everything you said about startups, but I think the underlying truth here is that we've both seen many, many startups launch and then fail. And too often people think it's because of the idea around the startup. And most of the time, that's not the problem. It's the lack of leadership and structure that you guys are obviously embodying today. You've got this fantastic combination of, true structure, OKRs, and that sort of thing, where you are going to have business objectives, you're going to be held accountable to them, but you're also combining freedom and instruction and fantastic culture, which is essential really for success. Are there any kinds of tools or platforms that you guys have been using? I don't know, for OKRs or anything else within that team to help achieve this kind of success?
So I'd say, well, of course, a great tool, Agorapulse. I have to say that. But I think from an OKR structure, a little less platforms itself and a little more like we're more focused on the business intelligence that we own, right? So being able to take a lot of the data from what's being generated in market through our platform and through our revenue lines, business models, et cetera. And then being able to bring it into like something like a Power BI and create custom reports. And then obviously a lot of our leadership goals and a lot of those OKRs we do track in platforms, kind of like Trello and different boards of sorts. But I think that it's less about the platforms itself and it's more about how we're displaying that information, how frequently we're updating it and looking at it, and how we're holding each and every individual, whether they're an individual contributor or a part of a greater team, how we're holding everybody accountable by showing them, hey, here are the goals, here's where we are, here's where we need to be. And in between there is strategy, it's development, it's ideation, and it's execution that I think each individual person needs to focus on in their own silo and with the greater team.
Fantastic. Now, I know you've been bringing on additional employees as you've continued to grow, and I imagine that's created some differences in communication style. Like I'll just share a personal story. I am Gen X. I am now over 50 years old, and some of the younger folks that I work with, they tend to prefer much more visual tools, and it seems to be because some people would say this is a learning style, and I think in this case,
Mhm.
it's more generational than anything else. Like, they like tools like Miro, and they like to have this visual whiteboard, and I find that extremely overwhelming. That doesn't work very well for me. How have you handled those kinds of differences in communication and work styles?
So I'm going to tell a fun story. So we've interviewed thousands of people over the duration of the past few years. And a question we always ask, right? We're going to get a little bit into the weeds and some anecdotal data that I've collected. I don't have hard stats, but we're going to give some light stats here. Every single time that we've interviewed someone, we ask at the end of the interview, we say, "Would you rather be a tree or a river, and why?" The responses we've gotten are some of my favorite stories ever again, because I've heard some of the most intense answers, the blandest answers, the most creative answers, and the most just A to B, almost binary answers. And what we've seen, the data will show, if you look back at nearly every single person that has joined our organization, the answer is a river. And the response to that has to do with fluidity, quickness, speed, and the want to always be moving. And I think that it's just ironic, right? It doesn't have anything
Mm.
to do with how we think about their application. It is just something fun to talk about in the interview. But every single one of us are rivers, and we've had some people come in and they talk to a new hire. They're like, "Were you a river or a tree?" And they're like, "River." And I think that it like a lot of times we've seen a younger individual will be a river for many, many reasons. We've seen a lot of common trends within the responses. But with that in mind, once someone comes in, they're kind of just like, yeah, let's do it. What are we doing? Where are we doing all this work? Right. Our tech stack really relates back to, so Slack is our communication channel. We do of course use Miro. We use a plethora of platforms here. I'm going to open it up like Monday, Zendesk, Figma for all design, GetStream for our backend, FCM Rush for SEO, Arcade for video walkthroughs, Hotjar for data, Calendly for the calendar, Instantly for email, HighRush for attribution tracking, Zapier for Zaps, obviously ChatGPT because it's the greatest invention of the last bajillion years.
Yep.
Um, and like Partner Stack, a bunch of other things. But like we essentially, depending on where the individual is going to be sitting and like, what part of the whole org they're going to be a part of, we kind of say, hey, here's the platforms that we use. We'll train you up on them because we become masters of them over time. But we also say, use whatever works best for you. If someone comes in and they just had two previous roles and they have an exact tech stack and workflow that they love, we are more than happy to welcome that into the overall stack because like all these things I just mentioned are just new platforms that help productivity and help organization. There's no real one that's better than the rest. It's all about how the individual user can master the platform. So I think we're really open in that regard to being able to say like, hey, whatever works best for you. We're a, it sounds corny. We're a Google Meets company. We're a Google Slides company. We're a Google Sheets company. We're a Gmail company because we're all rolling right out of college. And that's what we're native to. So it's like
Yeah.
whatever's going to get the best, fastest work done without the learning curves, we want to like promote. And then obviously, if someone does need to learn something like design in Figma, for example, I can teach someone design in Figma. It might take me 5 hours or so, but I can teach you how to be a baseline wizard in Figma just based off like we learned it from scratch and we use it incredibly well. So I think it all comes back to like how someone wants to work, how they want to learn, and where they want to do their work. And we're open to any and all there.
That is a fantastic mentality. First of all, I love the approach of having a question in the interview that's consistent. That's maybe
Yep.
not a make or break question, but it's going to be really really telling. Like one of the things I always like to ask people is what do they read? Where do they go to get new knowledge, or what are they listening to podcast wise, that kind of thing? Because I'll tell you, if somebody comes back to me and they say, I don't really read books or pay attention to the podcast, that's a huge red flag for me. I'm like, well, then you're not growing at all,
Right.
are you?
Hmm.
You're not consuming any new information. Okay.
Right.
You're probably not going to be a good fit for us. And I obviously love that you guys are using ChatGPT. I'm a huge AI
Oh my gosh.
enthusiast. And I mean, along the same lines, I'm all in on Gemini. I love Gemini, but I would never say
Really?
somebody who's not using Gemini or using ChatGPT, well, that's just wrong. Because, like you said, they're all very, very similar. But I would say for you guys, you are so embedded in the Google Workplace, you really should think about Gemini. You're probably
Huh.
already paying for it.
Yeah, I know. We
So
100%, we 100% are. There's no
yeah,
no doubt about that at our C-suite levels. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But to that point about reading, are there specific resources or communities that you recommend leaders go to if they're looking to better understand and work with Gen Z talent?
I was really thinking about this. I know that it's a tough question because like the idea of communities, the idea of groups, the idea of whether it's third spaces, digitally, physically, etc. There's so many of them. I personally think that for any and all things work related, LinkedIn is quite literally the number one platform in the world. And I think that LinkedIn does a fantastic job with groups. They don't really promote the groups, but I'm a part of a plethora of creator economy groups, whether it's creator economy US, creator economy international, jobs in the creator economy, hiring creator economy. These are all different groups that I'm a part of, and people are consistently posting it's a younger crew in there, and it's a mix of kind of people that are looking to hire within the Gen Z creator economy space and those that are like fresh in the space looking for a new role. And I think that, exploring those groups and kind of spreading the web beyond like just posting a job listing somewhere, I think that's where you're going to start to find people that are almost like nooked away that wouldn't just see a general job listing. And you're going to find very specialized people. In some of these groups, I see someone say, I am specialized in running Discord servers on behalf of community engagement at e-commerce companies or at gaming companies. And that's pretty niche, right? And they're like, I
Yeah.
want a full-time role and I want to do this, this, this. And I'm like, wow, that is I'm so proud of that person for knowing themselves that well at such a young age that they know exactly what role they want to be in. And then there's also people that are like, hey, I just left this school. Here are all my socials. I've done this, 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 this. that love an entry level role in the marketing department of any brand in these industries. And you'll see people that will chime in and be like, hey, we have these jobs open. We'd love to chat. And I think that these communities and these groups are fantastic because it's a way to really like you've already pre-vetted, right? To be in that group or to have the want to be in that group, you have to kind of speak the language and be a part of the same conversation. And so I think being able to find those groups, LinkedIn specific, there's a lot of Slack channels that are a little more deep cut. Like you'd have to really know how to get into the Slack channels. So I wouldn't suggest that, but yeah, check out LinkedIn. There's some Instagram groups, but just play on social media. Social media it's town hall and the conversation is happening 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I think it's the greatest tool to come out of the last 25 years because it connects not only us with the world, but the world with us.
I think so many people are sleeping on using social media for this way,
Mhm.
following very key people or joining very specific groups as a way to learn, as a way to level up, as a way to see
Mhm.
what the people you want to talk to are saying or teaching in that specific industry, whether that's, connecting with Gen Z or learning how to run a Discord server, whatever it is that you want to learn, there's people who are creating videos, creating content, on their preferred channels about that. So that is a fantastic tip to leave us with. Christian, you've been absolutely amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining us. For those who want to learn more about you and about Glewee, where should they go?
You can go to www.glewee.com, spelled Glewee. And if you are a brand of any sorts, whether that's a startup brand, mid-sized company, up to enterprise company, you can use our platform on a 14-day trial on any of our tiers. And if you'd like to explore how we can do influencer marketing for you, we have an entire leg of our business solely focused on that managed service, all of which you can find at glewee.com. And if you are an influencer or creator looking to find more paid brand deals and UGC campaigns, you can download Glewee on the App Store, apply, and start joining campaigns today.
Solid. We definitely have both buckets of folks listening. So thank you for sharing that, Christian. Thank all of you for joining us today. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast B2B edition on Apple and drop us a review. I'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for joining another episode of Social Pulse Podcast B2B edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by Agorapulse, the leading social media management solution. Learn more at agorapulse.com. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave us a review. We value your feedback and look forward to bringing you more useful insights.